Hello and welcome back to my channel. I just want to check to make sure that you can see, because again, like my previous couple of videos, I'm making this video with my iPad because I have not yet taken the time to learn how to edit book covers and images and things of that nature in my videos on my laptop. So I have to find a good editing software and take some time and learn how to put picture within picture, which is what I do when I use LumaFusion on the iPad. So I thought what I would do today, since I am finishing up Mad Kitty, and as you can see, it's pretty wide, the area that I'm working on. Usually I work with the Zazasu parchment paper, which is 5.5 by 5.5 squares. So this bottom row, the last row in Mad Kitty, which is by Mandie Manzano at Diamond Art Club, had 2 squares left, but I decided to get all of my 310s in the latter part, and I just work from left to right until I finish this painting. If I wasn't close to the end, I would have stayed within a square, which is how I do all of my diamond paintings, by squares. So I thought, while I was sitting here working, and I've been working for about 40 minutes this morning, that why don't I go ahead and complete this diamond painting and give you a pretty much a half-month wrap-up of my reading month for January. Now, I know that I will be at least reading a book today, so I technically should have waited until tomorrow to do a wrap-up video, which, you know, in retrospect, I realized that since I'm almost done with Satara, another Diamond Art Club painting, which is by Michelangelo, I could have just saved everything until tomorrow. But we're going to go with January 1st to January 15th while I finish. I may not finish this during this video, but while I work on it. And so I thought I would give you an update, and yeah, I'm going to be glancing simply at 2 things. One is my spreadsheet, which maybe I'll incorporate that in the video, and 2, my review notes for some of the books that I have read this month. So let's get started. Now, as I mentioned, this is a Diamond Art Club painting. It's Mad Kitty. I originally decided to work on Mad Kitty with Shalene and Fashawn for Shalene, the Coloring Book Nooks, Alice along. But I was on Shalene's live stream last night and discovered that there's at least 4 different events between YouTube and Instagram, I believe, maybe, or YouTube and Facebook, probably YouTube and Facebook, that this diamond painting qualifies for. So I thought that was exciting, but I didn't write those other events down. But in any event, I'm going to go ahead and finish this and get back to a couple other things, other things that I will be doing regarding diamond painting today will be to seal my peacock diamond painting so I can hang that in my one of my bathrooms. And the next thing I want to do is add some drills to Seaside Dreams, because it was short a few colors in a few spots, and then cut that down, put it in the frame that I bought, and have my husband hang it. And then I want to get back to Satara. So that's pretty much my agenda. I have other things on my agenda, but I don't think they're going to get done today. And those include swatching a few pencil sets. I want to swatch my new Soul Color 180 count pencils. I would like to swatch some, what are they? Goodness gracious. They're watercolor pencils, I believe, from Arteza that were a gift to me. And I also want to swatch the Derwent Light Fast pencils. So those are projects that I have to do. Other projects that I have to do are videos I need to make, because I currently have, I think, 7 diamond paintings that are still in packages that have not been opened, and I have 3 coming today from Diamond Art Club that I ordered just yesterday, so those need to be made into unboxing videos. And I have a gift from a friend from Diamond Art Club, but she has not told me what I'm expecting, so that's something I want to do. And I ordered some coloring books, and I probably will do flip throughs of those. So there's quite a few things that I want to do. I need to just actually sit down with my planner and schedule out some of these things. And the last thing that I'll mention as far as what I'd like to do, and I'm going to take a sip of my water for a second. Excuse me. The last thing that I'd like to do is to get my jigsaw puzzle out that I started maybe back in November, December, that I just haven't touched, because every time I sit down I want to diamond paint. And for the heck of it, I'll throw one other thing that I haven't touched for about a month, and that is a crocheted blanket that I did for my granddaughter Olivia when she was born, but I never finished it. I just lost interest in it. I hadn't crocheted in 40 years. I made the most gorgeous blanket, at least in my opinion. And all I want to do, I don't need to because I use granny squares, is I do want to put a border around it, and I needed to get that done. So I need to sit with my planner and figure all this out. And in addition to that, which is going to segue into what I'm going to do for the duration of this video, is I have one thing I do have organized is my spreadsheet for books that I have coming up. And that includes the book that I plan on reading today for a blog tour that is scheduled for the 18th. So let's talk about what I have read this month and what I plan on reading for the next week or so. I won't tell you everything that I plan on reading in January because my list is quite long, but at least I will give you a week's worth of my TBR. By the way, I hope my sound is okay, and I also hope that you can see what I'm doing well enough, because since I'm doing this on my iPad, I can't see what I'm doing. I'm just trusting the process that at least you can see from how I set it up. So let's get started. Now, I caught a series on Netflix, the Bridgerton series, and yes, I know that it's rated as for adults. It was quite an adult show, but I truly have no problem hitting the fast forward button. But I was more interested in Bridgerton because, I should have said the Bridgerton series, written by Julia Quinn, produced by Shonda Rhimes for Netflix. I was interested in it because, for 2 reasons specifically. Number one is I do enjoy historical romance because I like period pieces. I like the 1700s, the 1800s, even the early 1900s, like for a show that I love called Murdoch Mysteries. I love things that were set in the past. The other thing that drew me to the Netflix series is the fact that Shonda Rhimes produced it. And when she did so, she used diverse actors in that production. And so I just had to see it for the diversity. A black queen, a black duke, one of the minor characters who had a fairly good role, a fairly big role, was also African American. And it was really, really interesting to me to see the development of something that was written completely different and seen through the eyes of somebody that was bringing diversity into a period piece. So hopefully there'll be no judgment, but that's what led me to a huge portion of what I read in the month of January thus far. And so I think December 29th I read The Duke and I, which is the first book in the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. Now, the Bridgerton Netflix series, and again, for those of you who know me and know a little about me, is yes, I know the Bridgerton series on Netflix was an adult show, okay, but the Bridgerton series season 1 focused on Simon because he was the first of the sons in Julia Quinn's series. Now, the series has been slated for 8 more seasons because if you read the books, you'll notice that there were 8 children, so therefore there'll be 8 seasons. Okay, so when I finished watching the series on Netflix, which was 8 episodes, I went and read the first book in the series, The Duke and I, which, like I said, was based on the oldest son, based on one of the characters or one of the children, one of the 8 children, and with her marrying the Duke, Simon. So that was book 1. Now, because I came into this very late, which I didn't print the year. I think this came out in 2003 or something along that nature, or I could be wrong. But at some point, Julia Quinn went back and wrote a second epilogue for each of the first 7 books in the series. So on the 29th of December, I read The Duke and I, which is book number 1 for season number 1 in the Bridgerton series on Netflix. So to start off January, I read the second epilogue of The Duke and I. That was my first read. Now, I read mostly 350, 400, 500 page books, but I did read each epilogue and incorporated in my tally, so to speak, for January. So the way that Goodreads incorporates these second epilogues is as novellas. However, if you were to get the Kindle ebook of any book in this series or the audiobook, whether you get it from Audible, Scribd, your local library, Kobo, and one other, the one other source, you'll find that the second epilogue is at the end of each book, whether it's an ebook or narration. However, Goodreads lists them separately. So since I do a page count tally each month on Goodreads and on my spreadsheets, I used the second epilogue novellas as individual books. And I'll just show you here. Hopefully you can see some of it. I see the sun is glaring on it, but I will put this in a screenshot and you'll see that I incorporated each of the second epilogues. And again, I can see the glare of the sun, but just so that you can see how I tally on my spreadsheet, because I use a spreadsheet pretty much for everything. And people that know me know that I'm kind of a spreadsheet fanatic. So that was my January 1st read, is The Duke and I, the second epilogue. That was it. And then on the 2nd, I read Single Mother, and that was by Samantha Reyes, and that did take me a couple of days to read. You know, I've talked a couple times about my chronic illnesses and also my depression. So sometimes I can read a book in a couple hours or a few hours, or sometimes a book will take me a couple of days, depending on various circumstances. So the second book I read for January was Single Mother, as I said, by Samantha Reyes. So I thought what I would do is, as I tell you about the books I reviewed, I will give you those reviews right now. And the reviews that I'm giving you right now are on my blog. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip them to my diamond painting here so that I can see what I'm doing. So basically, Single Mother was about a woman named Mel. And she struggled greatly to take care of her 12-year-old daughter. And she managed to find a really good job, kind of like a nursing home, or a home, not necessarily like I guess it was a nursing home. And one day she goes to work and she's called into the office, and they said that one of the clients or patients or residents, we'll say residents, was missing a huge sum of money, and they accused her of the theft, and boom, she was fired. And before she was fired, the first couple of scenes in the book showed how little food she and her daughter had. And most nights she fed her daughter, but she was never really able to feed herself. I mean, something like one piece of bread with peanut butter or something, along that line she would eat, but she always made sure her daughter ate. So she was really struggling, and then she gets accused of theft and fired. So she has nowhere to turn. Meanwhile, her best friend, I think his name was Michael. Was his name Michael? I believe his name was Michael. I read this book a few weeks ago. Anyway, her best friend was visiting her one day, and he noticed that she hadn't opened a letter from an attorney. As a matter of fact, she had planned on tossing that letter. And he's like, no, open it. So she opens it, and it basically tells her that she received an inheritance. And she's like, there's no way. I grew up in the foster system. I was never adopted. I don't even know who my family is. So who could possibly have left me anything? So she just figured it was a scam, and she wanted to disregard it. Well, when she got fired, she's like, well, I didn't steal that money. Maybe I can sue them for wrongful termination. But how am I going to sue them? I can't pay a lawyer. Well, she remembered that she had this law firm that wrote her. And so she calls the law firm, hoping that maybe they'll take her on as a pro bono case, so that she doesn't, so that she can get her job back. Because she knew that if she didn't have the job, she had a lot more to worry about feeding her daughter. It was where were they going to live and so forth. Well, bottom line is they're like, well, yes, we can help you with that, but your name is what again? And she told them, and they said, well, actually, we really need to see you because we have something really important to share with you. So reluctantly she went, and lo and behold, she discovered that not only did she actually receive an inheritance, which was of a hotel, albeit run down, but of a hotel, but that it came with a sizable financial settlement. And, she's really confused, but they insisted that, yes, you are the person we've been looking for. You do have a long-lost relative, and this is your inheritance. So now her and her daughter's lives have a chance to change forever. Meanwhile, her daughter's father had been in prison for domestic abuse, and she was always afraid that he would find her once he got out of prison. So part of the story is very dramatic because you not only have the drama that starts with the false accusation, but then the drama shifts back and forth between her fear, and I believe his name was Simon, her fear of her ex finding them. And so getting this hotel gave her and her daughter a chance to go to a place that Simon would never have a chance. I'm going to close the blinds because this glare is really getting on my nerves. And it might even be affecting what you're seeing. Give me a second. And I probably hit the iPad while I was shifting the blinds. So the inheritance gave her more than one chance. Not only a chance to start over, but also a chance to stay further away from Simon. And I need to tell you right now that as much as I talk about books, I do not give spoilers. So not a single thing I have said thus far or will say will be a spoiler. So basically, she starts over. She starts to renovate the hotel, and there's another character that now enters the story, and it's proven to be the catalyst as to everything that happens from there on in, I should say. And so it was a really good psychological thriller. And yep, I'm going to leave you hanging right there. Another character that was a catalyst in the story. Remember that if you want to look up this book. The name of the book again was Single Mother by Samantha Hayes. And since I'm using my iPad, I can use LumaFusion to incorporate the book cover on the screen as I'm talking to you. All right, so that was a Single Mother. So I'm going to move this out the way, and I'm going to give you a rundown. And in this, because I'm telling you this in the order in which I read the books, and I'm just clipping my notes in front of me so that it's easier for me to see. And then I dropped a bunch of 310s, but I'll get them. I probably don't need them. Okay. So then after I read I read another book before I went back to Bridgerton. So let's talk about that other book. The next book I read was Marion Lane in the Midnight Murder, and that was by T.A. Willberg, my first book by this author, and this was by Park Row Publishing, and this came out December 29th, so you'll be able to get it if you want to read it. And this book was kind of fantastical. It was quite different than what I expected. I thought it was just going to be a mystery. Oh, I'm not diamond painting, I'm just talking. I thought it was just going to be a mystery, but what it was, I believe, maybe the 1950s or so. And there was a team of specially trained agents that were trained even with the use of gadgets to solve crimes. That's the reason for this one character's job, and quite naturally, pretty much all of the characters. So in the course of this woman who was in her infantile stages on the job, I believe 6 months into the job, a woman was murdered. And when this lady was murdered, she and a friend of hers just could not let things go. I mean, granted, they were being trained in the art of espionage anyway, so solving a murder wasn't too far out of reach as far as they were concerned. However, danger followed them at every turn. And I used the word fantastical when I started out because some of the technology that was roving about in this book was kind of interesting because, again, the book was set back maybe 50, 60, 70 years ago. And so it was really, really intriguing because there were many, many, many secrets being held in secret parts of the place where this woman worked. So how she could manage to solve this murder without losing her own life was a challenge. So it was kind of a good story. I gave it 4 stars. I wouldn't read it again, but it was different. It wasn't quite what I expected. So that's Marion Lane and the Midnight Murder by T.A. Willberg. And this is on my blog as well. And my blog does have an epilogue for this book. So if you want to read the first chapter, you'll be able to read this. If you can see right here, part of the epilogue, part of the excerpt, I said epilogue. It includes an excerpt, so you would be able to read that if you thought that I haven't too much thrown you off from this book. Now, back to my endeavor to binge read the Bridgerton series by Julia Effort. Okay, back to my effort to binge read the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. That's what I did for the next week. So when I read Single Mother, that took a couple of days. And when I read Marion Lane and the Midnight Murder, that took a day. So between the 6th and I think until the 9th, I read The Viscount Who Loved Me, book number 2, The Viscount Who Loved Me, the second epilogue, and then I also read An Offer from a Gentleman, book number 3, An Offer from a Gentleman, second epilogue, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, the 4th book, and Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, the second epilogue. And I read those in that order. And I'm going to guess, because I don't have this written down, but The Viscount Who Loved Me, book number 2, was Anthony. An Offer from a Gentleman, I believe, the son's name was beginning with the letter B, Benedict. And I think, no, Benedict was book number 4, and book number 3, I believe, was the second daughter. I know I should have written notes on this, but I just didn't. And then, and by the way, up until now, everything that I read for these first 4 books in the Bridgerton series, I gave 5 stars. It wasn't until the latter books that I went down to 4 stars. And then I read Find Me in Havana, and let me get those notes for you. Find Me in, and I really don't need notes on this one. I'll never forget this book. Find Me in Havana was by Serena Burdick. Now, Find Me in Havana was tagged as historical fiction, but it was based on the true story of a little known, I certainly didn't know who she was, although I've seen some of the movies that she was in, by a little known Cuban American actress named Estelita Rodriguez. Now, this book took place in, well, she was first known as a singer at 9 years of age, and then in 1936 she began singing in a Cuban nightclub, and that is when she was recognized and started to gain popularity. So she went to Hollywood, and she signed on with a film company that has long since been shut down, and started starring in a bunch of movies, which were mostly westerns, because, with her nationality, she was never a leading actress, but she was a very good supporting actress. Well, at some point, because of her Cuban heritage, she was forced back to Cuba when Fidel Castro was raining terror on the Cuban population. And what she and her daughter, as well as her mother and her nieces, went through was nothing short of absolutely horrendous, tear-inspiring terror. I hope I was able to let you know that it was not easy to read this book. Not easy by any means whatsoever. They experience trauma on a level that I was completely unaware of, because Cuban history was not taught in any of the schools that I went to. And to be quite honest, I don't think in all of my thousands of books that I've read, that I've ever read a book about Castro and the coup that happened during his time of ruling. Now, of course, I knew who Fidel Castro was. I think most people my age know who he was, so that wasn't new to me. But the extent to which him and his soldiers abused people was absolutely horrible. Well, eventually, they were rescued, and she went back to Hollywood and starred in a few more movies. Meanwhile, before and after her trials in Cuba during the time that things were terrorizing, she was constantly getting married. She had, I believe, 4 husbands. Again, her name is Estelita Rodriguez. If you want to look her up on, say, in any encyclopedia, if you want to look her up on Wikipedia or imdb.com, Her name is Estelita Rodriguez. And during her last marriage, and I'm going to say very little because I don't want to spoil it, that might have been one of her rockiest marriages, although her second marriage was no picnic either. So she was constantly getting married. That was one of the things she did. She had 4 husbands, and I will tell you that she died young. That's not really a spoiler because, this is based on true stories, interviews, and research that the author did. So I will say that this book should, or at least I should, give trigger warnings of rape, molestation, child abuse, murder, and torture. It was not an easy book to read. Again, I think I've already said that. But I had it for a blog tour, and despite the difficulty and my sensitivity in reading this book, I am glad that I read it because I love learning, and history is important. Even if the history is painful, it's still important. So that was Find Me in Havana. All right, back to my spreadsheet. What is next? So after Find Me in Havana, I read all the rest of the next books, actually, of the Bridgerton series. To Sir Phillip with Love and the second epilogue. When He Was Wicked and the second epilogue. It's In His Kiss and the second epilogue. Then, On the Way to the Wedding was the youngest son's story, and that did not have a second epilogue. And that was followed by the Bridgertons' Happily Ever After. Now, the series really only had 8 books, but the Bridgertons' Happily Ever After is the 9th book because what it did was it incorporated each of the second epilogues as well as a bonus story. So although I binge read the entire series in the matter of 4 or 5 days, I still read the Bridgerton's Happily Ever After. So therefore I reread all of the second epilogues and it thoroughly enjoyed the bonus story. And I'm not going to tell you whose story was the bonus, but it was really, really good. So from To Sir Phillip with Love down to It's In His Kiss, those got 4 stars from me. On the Way to the Wedding and the Bridgertons' Happily Ever After, I gave 5 stars too. And then the last book that I read, for this half of January is No Holding Back by Laurie Foster. Now, I will let you know that, I think there was another book I read. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, there was another book I read that I forgot to tell you about. So let me tell you about No Holding Back, and I'll go back and tell you about the other book that I almost left out. Now, No Holding Back is the first book in a new series by Laurie Foster. Now, I have not written a review on this, so I don't have any notes to go by because I just finished it as I was deciding to shoot this video. Now, Laurie Foster is indeed one of my favorite authors. I have read over 70 of her books because she writes lots and lots of series, and I am a series fanatic and I love her series. And this book starts a new series, and no, I don't remember the name of the series, but there are 3 siblings, so I imagine that each of them will get their own book. This book is the oldest brother, Cade, and then there's a brother named Reyes and a sister named Madison. So I'm pretty sure Reyes and Madison will each have their own book. So in my estimation, this is the beginning of a trilogy. I'm fairly familiar with the way Laurie Foster writes her stories and her connecting characters. So that's why I'm pretty sure that there'll only be 2 more books in the series, Reyes and Madison. This book is very, very, very intense. It involves, and I did write an opening sentence to my review, but I'll see if I can remember it. I wrote vigilantism, revenge and passion are components of this thrilling new book in a new series by Laurie Foster, something along that line. It's rather cheesy. I haven't even written anything more than that, because the book involves those three things. The female character, her name is Sterling, or sometimes she's called Star, which she's trying to get rid of that nickname. She has a vendetta against human traffickers, sex traffickers. And lo and behold, somebody that has quickly become very important to her, she slowly discovers that he's on the same mission. But he's not on this mission alone. He's in this mission with his father and his siblings and their powerful connections. So that's where the drama lies, and that is the serious nature of this book. It's not gruesome or, anything along that nature. It's not explicit or anything like that, but it does deal with them working hard to save women from this terrible thing of sex trafficking. So that book I just finished. It's going to be released on January 26th, so it's not yet available, but it's No Holding Back by Laurie Foster. I think it's an excellent book that exposes how these sick individuals operate and how hard it is to put an end to these operations. So it's fiction, but it's fiction written quite well, and it's certainly applicable to the dangerous times that we live in today. So that's No Holding Back by Laurie Foster. Now, the book that I neglected to mention that I also read was Special Ops Seduction by Megan Crane. It's the 5th book in the Alaska Force series. I read books 1 and 2, but I did not yet read books 3 and 4. But that's basically because I kind of had a hard time during some months of 2020, and I just did not get to them. But I decided to do something that I don't ordinarily do, which is to read series books out of order. So I went ahead and read and reviewed Special Ops Seduction, and it was really quite good. And when I posted that I was reading this book on the NetGalley group that I'm on, I'm going to clip my review so I can see it, even though I remember it. But I belong to a NetGalley group where we share approvals, denials, auto approvals, statistics, and what we're reading. So when this book came up, I showed the cover and I said, this book is the 5th book in an exciting new series. Has anybody read it? And one of the members said, that cover puts me off. Of course I won't be reading that. So that was kind of like impolite, but that's what she said. And the group owner, told her, whatever. And I said, I don't judge a book by its cover. I am a series fanatic, and I happen to enjoy Megan Crane, so I was eager to read the book. Now, I love tropes, okay? I am a cheesy romance reader. Enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, whatever, best friends, whatever. I like tropes, and the trope in this one was enemies to lovers, okay? And what happened in this book was they were both soldiers, and let's see, his name was Jonas Crew, and her name was Beth Ann. I want to give you Beth Ann's last name, Beth Ann Wilcox. And there was an operation when they were on the battlefield, that cost all the other team members their lives. And Beth Ann somehow managed to save Jonas's life. And they went their separate ways. Jonas left the military and joined a special ops team in Alaska called Alaska Force. And sometime later, Beth Ann also left the military and she joined the team, only one of 2 women on the team. As a matter of fact, she was also a ranger and one of the few women rangers ever to be around, so she was a very, very skilled woman. Well, the last thing Jonas ever wanted to do was work with Beth Ann, but as things were turning out, her sister was about to get married and it was the wedding weekend, and there was a threat that was posed, so their outfit, Alaska Force, was hired to expose the threat and to keep violence to a minimum, because her father was a general, 4-star or 5-star general. So basically they went in there undercover as boyfriend and girlfriend, and they had to act pretty much super in love to try to suss out whoever had a plot, a murder, an assassination plot type of thing. And so the question soon became apparent how much of their play was acting and how much of it was real. And another aspect of it is, why did Jonas dislike Beth Ann so much? That is where the trope played really well. Another thing that played really well in that book was the fact that Jonas was big, gruff, and a bear. Just very, very, very tough exterior. And one of the things that I loved most about this book was seeing his transformation, how and why he transformed. So I really liked the book. And to that other reader who said, look at that cover, I would never read that. Well, I say don't judge a book by its cover. I never have and I never will. So that makes up all of the books I have read thus far this month. I think it's 20 or 21. I've lost count. Let's see, my spreadsheet is still around, right? My spreadsheet will tell me. Okay, that's 20 books. That's 20 books that I've read thus far this month. I almost forgot, I should say, to tell you maybe a dozen or so of the next books that I am going to be reading. So I figure before I did end the video, but I'm going to stick this part in and edit it in so that you know what I'm going to be reading for the rest of the month. So the next book that I'm going to be reading, and I will incorporate book covers, is The Perfect Guest by Emma Rao. And actually this and the next 4 books that I mentioned are for scheduled blog tours for the rest of January. After I read, no, actually, let me retract that statement. After I read The Perfect Guest by Emma Rao, I am going to hold off on my next blog tour book because I got a book that won't be out till the 3rd week of March, I believe, but I just absolutely have to read it, and it's called Remember by Lisa Genova. Now, I don't know her at all. I'm not sure of her specialty. Maybe she's a neurosurgeon, something lofty like that, and she talks a lot about the brain. At least this was the recommendation from Fashawn when she told me about the book yesterday. So I went to NetGalley and I was approved for it, and it talks about the memory and the brain, how we remember things, why we forget things, and things of that nature. So I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but this is a book I just have to read. So after I read The Perfect Guest by Emma Rao, I will be reading Remember by Lisa Genova. Then I will move on to my blog tour titles, the next 4 for January, or the last 4 for January. The first one is The Other Mothers by M.M. Chouinard. It's a psychological thriller. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Then I'm reading Before She Wakes by Ed James. It's the 2nd or 3rd book in a series, but I can't remember the name of the series. But I really liked it, so when this book came up for review, I absolutely said yes. Then I have a book called The Girl from the Channel Islands. Every time I look at my spreadsheet, I realize I stopped diamond painting The Girl from the Channel Islands. I don't know much about the book. It came up in an email for a blog tour request, and it looked good, so I selected that one. And then I have this one. I know what type of book it is. It is an Amish fiction, Someone to Trust by Patricia Davids. This is already exciting to me for two reasons. One is I love Amish fiction, and two, I love Patricia Davids. So those are the remaining books for blog tours for January. Then I'm going to read, in these books I cannot tell you what they are about because I just culminated a spreadsheet based on my mountainous TBR. And the few more I will mention are The Survivors by Jane Harper, and that is an audio book from NetGalley. As a matter of fact, some of these are from NetGalley and some of these are print arcs I got from the publisher. So another one is The Girls in the Snow by Stacy Green, which is an electronic arc. Then The Jade Tiger by E.W. Cooper. Christmas at Fireside Cabin. Yes, I know that it's a Christmas book. That's by Jenny Hale. And another Christmas book I never got read was A California Christmas by Brenda Novak. There I go again. I'm not diamond painting. I'm just talking. I really, really like Brenda Novak's mysteries or romantic suspenses, but her romances are always very sweet. I like sweet romances. I just love the simplicity of them and the heartwarming effect of reading those. So those are three books that I wish I had read in December, but I never got to. And well, pretty much. Oh yes, I got to tell you about this one, The Blink of an Eye by Iris Johansson and her son Roy Johansson. Now I have it as an electronic arc, but I do have books coming today from the publisher, so I'm pretty sure I'll have the hardcover within the next couple of hours. But I also got it as an electronic arc because I absolutely have to read it. I don't think it comes out to February or March, but I've got to read it. And we'll stop at one more, which is Reunited on Dragonfly Lane by Annie Raines, another author I like, and I have this as a print arc in my living room, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you the ebook arc of it just so that I can show you the screenshot of the cover. And I guess we'll stop there. And when I read through these over the course of the next week, I maybe will make another quick video with further TBR. So I'm going to end this clip and insert it in the pre-existing video that I started and then put everything together and upload it. So thanks a lot. And I want to say this really quickly. I'm really proud of myself because I had a really hard time for a couple of months. One of my videos recently explained what was happening regarding social media and some of the attacks that I experienced that caused me to pull back on my reading. I couldn't focus on reading. And so in November, prior to November, my average was 60 books a month. And we're talking somewhere upwards of 10 and 12,000 pages a month because the books are between 350 and 400 pages. Well, I'm just looking for my next drills. I'll get the letter S, 11. So I go from 60 books a month for 10 months, and then I get to November and I read 23. Then I got to December and I only read 13. That's because I was experiencing some real drama, and it hit me really hard. It took that bipolar disorder I have and threw me like I felt like I was in a clothes dryer on fast tumble speed or something, and it messed me up. So for me to read 20 books in 15 days makes me really happy. No, I'm not going to read 60 books this January, but maybe by next month I'll get back to reading 60, 70 books a month, which is how I usually read. So I kind of want to say something else too. How can I read 60 books a month, diamond paint, go to all the YouTube live streams I go to, talk on video chat with my friends, or on the phone with my friends and my daughters, and take care of the things I have to take care of in my apartment, and get enough sleep, shower, and all that good stuff? It's because I can read a book in the morning when I get up, and then through the course of the day, I'll play a book on Kindle text-to-speech and listen to a book while I am diamond painting, or working on a jigsaw puzzle, or when I get back into coloring. I'll always have a book playing because Kindle has a text-to-speech feature. So reading 2 books a day, or even 3 books a day some days, is really no strain. I have been in discussions with people for months who basically, one guy said that my name is not Robin Loves Reading. My name is Robin Loves Lying, because I am not reading 60 or 70 books a month every single month. But yet I read 626 books in 2020, which averages to 800 pages a day. So I'm reading these books, and I just wanted to put that in at the end here to say that I love reading. I have an eidetic memory. I have no problems remembering. Yeah, when I'm on camera and I feel like I'm being judged, my nerves get the best of me. So yeah, I'm going to peek at my notes. I'm going to do that. But put me in front of one of my friends. We can sit down and talk about the same books for hours, because I love reading. And yes, I read fast, and yes, I read a lot, but it doesn't take away my appreciation for all the hard work that authors and publishers put into reading. So I'm going to stand up and see if this baby is still recording, and going to shut it off. Oh my gosh, 46 minutes. But that's how much I've gotten done while I talk to you, and I appreciate any attention you've given me to this video. I will incorporate the book covers in order for you to know what I'm talking about. It looks like, oh, okay, that's just the glare. It looked like I was missing drills. And I see I've got a little straightening up to do here, here, and here. But anyway, that's it. I'm going to finish this bad boy today. And I want to thank you for your time. Bye-bye.